Hello everyone, it's Graylin from US Skywall here to talk to you a little bit more about weak auras. In my last video, I covered just some of the very basic things that you would use it for in a raid fight, tracking your DPS buffs, your DPS debuff. This time I want to show you how you can use weak auras to improve Blizzard's UI. Anyone who plays a mage knows about the 2 Ice Lance and 1 Brain Freeze proc that appears on your UI. They know if they want to track the time, the duration they have left to use that proc, they have to look all the way up here in the upper right hand corner. Same place you got to look for your buffs, and that's why by now you've probably put your weak auras somewhere more visible. You're not tracking things in the upper right hand corner anymore. So with the Brain Freeze and Ice Lance procs, it gives you 2 Ice Lance procs, which by default a mage gets, and 1 Brain Freeze proc, which by default a mage actually gets 2, strangely enough, but it only tracks 1. So what we can do is we can improve Blizzard's auras that they gave us themselves to track not just the timer, but the additional procs that we get. The mage set bonus allows a mage to hold 2 more Ice Lance procs, where the default UI only lets you track 2. And because it can hold so much more, and because of the mage class trinket, the timing becomes a little bit constrained. You want to be able to get as many Frostbolts and Ice Lances into a small window. Get as many as you can into a small window. Because of that, the timing of the spells becomes kind of an issue. You might lose your Brain Freeze proc, which is a significant source of damage. You'll lose that if you do nothing but cast Frostbolt and Ice Lance. With the Blizzard default UI, it'll be hard to see 1, how many Brain Freeze procs you have, 2, how many Ice Lance procs you have, and 3, how long you have left on those procs. So let's take a look and you can see what I mean. So let's get our 1 Brain Freeze and our 2 Ice Lances. Oh, it gave me an extra Brain Freeze. See, Blizzard's default UI does not track that extra one, so you won't know when you have 2 without looking up here. And it can happen sudden while you're in the hectic window of trying to use your procs and manage your rotation correctly. So you can see the default Blizzard UI also does not show a countdown for those things. They just appear like one solid wall here, and you'd have to look all the way up here to see how much time you have left on one, which can become real important if you don't want to be losing your procs. If this is down to 1 second left, if your Ice Lance has 1 second left on it, you know that you just need to use that Ice Lance and not try to fit a Frostbolt in first. Especially if you're not under the effects of some kind of haste buff or heroism. Chances are you're not going to be able to fit that in. Likewise with the Brain Freeze proc. When I first get going on the water jet rotation, it gives you that Brain Freeze proc, but you don't want to lose it, but at the same time you want to be casting as many Frostbolts and Ice Lances as you can there. So that timer is really nice to see about the right time to use your Brain Freeze. See, I got 2 there, and when you have 2, you always want to use 1 of them right away because you can't have more than 2. So if you don't use 1, you're just losing your procs. And now I can see how much time I have left on this one, so I know that it's going to be important to use it, probably after this Ice Lance. Yep, got it off just in time. So you can see the importance of that, of being able to track how much time's on it as well. But during a boss fight, you don't have time to look up here and see how much time is left, especially in this sea of moving icons during a raid fight. It's just not practical, and it's going to be a performance loss if you try to do that. The last thing I want to illustrate on my mage is how weak auras can be used to track a stacking buff. You'll see this one down here that counts from 1 to 5 and from 5 to 1. What this is my Incanter's Flow talent here, and what it is magical energy flows through you while in combat, building up to 20% increased damage and then diminishing down to 4% increased damage, cycling every 10 seconds. What that means is when that thing's at 5, I'm doing a lot of extra damage. So what I want to do when that's at 5 is fit as many things as I can in. Like maybe I'll save that Brain Freeze. That Brain Freeze proc I have there, I don't want to use that when that's at 1. That's one of my hard-hitting spells. I want to use that one when it's closer to 5. Oh, but I got 2. Always use 1. And there we go. It's at 5, so I know to use it. Same thing with Ice Nova, which you can see I track with a weak aura down here. I don't normally use Ice Nova for raiding, but I was doing some dungeons, and it's a little bit easier to use in dungeons. I would also want to use that when this thing is at 4 or 5, just to get the most out of it. You can see at 1 here, it will do significantly less damage than it will be when I have 20% increased damage. Of final note, I actually didn't make these weak auras myself. A mage in our guild did and shared them with the rest of us, which is one of the features I wanted to show while I had you here. So to open your weak auras, you just type \WA. But you have to do it when you're not in combat. Put our pet on passive and viz out. And weak auras opened. Very nice. So one of the things you can do with WeakArts is you can share them with just the push of a button. It's very nice. Let's suppose I want to share my mirror trinket when it's ready. This is something I use to track the cooldown progress of a trinket. I wouldn't call it advanced, but it's not quite as easy or necessary as tracking just your class buffs and debuffs. In fact, I use this on my rogue specifically for challenge modes. So suppose I want to share this with a fellow mirror user in the guild. All I'd have to do is type \WA to open my WeakArts, get into guild chat. Well, I'm in guild chat right now, so let's not get into guild chat. Let's get into raid chat since I'm not in a raid. Get into raid chat, shift click the mirror, and you can see WeakArts Drab Skywall Mirror Ready, which is the name of this WeakArts to show when my mirror trinket is ready. And I would press enter, and it would send that link to the raid. All they have to do is click on it, import it, and then they have it. Suppose they don't like where I have the icon, they can just drag it anywhere they want. Suppose they don't like the size, they can click to make it bigger or smaller. Very customizable, very simple, and if you're not using it now, like I said last time, go download it now, set up your first couple WeakArts. It will increase your performance by a significant amount with just a little bit of practice. Not even a lot. Doesn't take much to get to it. So go do it. Download it. Use it. Make yourself a better raider. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, please leave a comment or subscribe. Thank you so much. Goodbye.